So knowing all this as you do and have for a long time, the most radical step you can make if you're a Democrat is endorsing Donald Trump. So there are political calculations involved, there are ideological calculations, but there are also, of course, personal calculations. So once you do that, you've burned your boats. Like, that's it. You're not going back to wherever you were 10 years ago. How hard a decision was that for you personally?
It was an obvious decision for me. It should have been, but it was a very, very difficult decision. And we had, I have a very, very good team around me. And I was most worried about my wife, who was, about Cheryl, it was not comfortable with it. She's a lifelong Democrat. She's not the aristocracy. She comes from a very, I would say poor family in North Florida, but she found her way through idealism to the Democratic Party, and she shares a lot of those values. So and her industry is very, very much aligned with the Democratic Party, probably more than any industry in our country and more than any town in our country. So this, for me, was likely to have huge impacts on her. And ultimately, if she had told me, you can't do this, I wouldn't have done it. So, but I'm very grateful that she allowed me to do it. She was not embracing it, but she said, I understand why you have to do this. And we had a 4-day meeting up in Hyannisport in my home, where kind of everybody, my family members, my kids, many other people, Tony Robbins attended remotely, and a number of other kind of spiritual leaders, just people who cared deeply about our country, chimed in and made cases on both sides. And people from the campaign organization did. But here was the calculus that ultimately was persuasive for me. All of our internal polling showed from the outset that if I stayed in the Democratic Party, I was going to get Vice President Harris elected. 57 to 60%, and even more, sometimes up to 66% of my voters, my followers, said that if I withdrew from the election, they were going to vote for Trump, which is ironic, by the way, Tucker, because President Trump and the RNC did nothing to prevent me from being on the ballots. They didn't have a big major organization sending private eyes out. The Democratic Party was interviewing literally everybody I've ever met in 70 years to collect dirt on me. I got a call.
They've been doing that, I know for a fact, for over a year, as you know.
Yeah, and they were open about it. This is what we're going to do. They put a person in charge of it named Liz Smith, who's, that's the kind of person she is. This is what she does. She does negative research on people and tries to character assess.
Liz Smith, Elliot Spitzer's old girlfriend?
Yes.
Oh.
And she was in charge of that team. And then there was other people as well. Mary Beth Cahill had been my uncle Teddy's chief of staff, who I knew. And Liz Smith was in charge of the negative research, what they call negative research, euphemistically. And I got calls from, for example, a guy that I met at an AA meeting 40 years ago. And he received a call. Most of my family members received calls, contacts, either text or telephone calls from people who said, I'm doing intelligence for the DNC, and, we'd like to talk to you about Robert Kennedy, and if you have any negative information about him. So I was getting that,
What could possibly be the justification for that?
Well, they didn't want me running, and that's the thing, is it's not democratic. It wasn't,
That's such a mafia tactic.
Yeah. So, but the point is, it was weird. It was not smart, because I was actually helping the Democrats. And if they just let me stay in and they didn't run this campaign against me, they probably would win this election. And because I was hurting Trump, oddly, Trump didn't do anything about it. He was kind of, he made a couple of statements about me that I was a communist, etc. But they were sort of good-natured, the stuff that you're like, okay, that's okay. They weren't like calling my old girlfriend saying, what did he do? Or, whatever they were asking him. So, but the DNC was up to that. And
were you shocked by that?
Was I shocked? I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm in a place now where nothing surprises me.
Yeah, I bet you are.
So, but I don't know. I mean, anyway. So
they're going to drop all that stuff now, obviously, right?
What? They're going to get rid of Liz Smith and put her on some other project? I don't know.
You sort of wonder, how does Liz Smith live with herself? I mean, that's so repulsive. Like, how does she justify that to herself? I met her. She's not stupid. But that is disgusting. No, you've lived a life famously, and if you have a team of researchers digging into it.
And I have not led a careful life, by the way.
Well, I know.
I said, during my announcement speech, I said, I had told my wife this, told Cheryl this a couple of days before. I said, I have so many skeletons in my closet that if they could vote, I could run for king of the world. I know stuff's going to come out about me because I let me put it, a colorful life.
Yeah.
And people have all kinds of stories about me, but so I'm ready for, listen, I've never done anything criminal in terms of like stealing money or self-enrichment. I did a lot of stupid stuff and a lot of.
Have you gotten rich off pointless foreign wars?
No, I have not done that yet.
Oh, you haven't? Okay. You haven't forced people to inject substances in their bodies? Okay.
No, I've never done any of that. But